most of the things that I've learned have been the hard way. And through being in business for 10 years is like, I'm just still struggling.
Welcome to the Partners Podcast, where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to entrepreneurs who are relentlessly building real, profitable companies. Join us as we ask them the hard questions so you can take away the mindset, strategy, and tactics that launch them to success.
Welcome to another episode of the Partners Podcast, joined today by a great colleague and partner of mine, Mario Bianco of Skycam Digital out in Charlotte, North Carolina, crushing the game, hitting almost six figures a month. How much you do last month, Mario?
It was about 92, I think, last month. And then April was another 90K month. And then May and June were around 70, 80. But definitely on the come up.
Awesome. Well, I know it's not just about numbers. There's a lot of hard work and a lot of time and dedication you put into your business. How long have you been in business for, and how has your growth, came to be? Like, how has it evolved in the last couple of years?
So it's been only me for the last first 8 years in business. I've been in business for 10 years now. And it wasn't until the middle of last year where I really started looking at like-minded individuals that are focused on growth, other agency owners, really diving into like Facebook groups and finding out what resources I could find to help me scale. Because what I quickly realized is I was the bottleneck in my business. I was overworking myself. I was burnt out every single year. And so in order to grow, I realized that I had to start building a team around me. And I think just really connecting myself with other agency owners and people like yourself and the Acre community really just took things off to the next level, bigger than I could have imagined.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the growth in the last just year alone. I know you and I first met around this time last year. Where were you last year and where are you now with the team and
Yeah.
everything?
Thanks for that quick flashback, because I still remember our first phone call, and it's just wild to think of the steps I took to get to the point of meeting you. And I knew you were Acre was kind of in the newer phase, but now where it's at now is kind of wild. But yeah, I was at a point where just working at least 12-hour days out in the field shooting, staying up till 2, 3 a.m., uploading files, getting everything to the post-production team, just constantly overworking myself. And I just got to a point where I was like, things have to change. I'm in my mid-30s, approaching a time in my life when I want to start focusing on my family, start focusing on other things in my personal life. How do I build a business to where I'm no longer the bottleneck? And so I really just started looking outward, connected with you. And really after that, the rest is history.
That's amazing. I love seeing you build a team, and how many team members do you have now that have helped aid in this growth to get you to be able to handle 90K? Because like you on your own, like you were maxing out at where, like 30, 35K maybe.
Yeah.
And then now that you have a team, in place, you can do just so much more.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. About 30 to 35K was the absolute max that I could do as an individual. And then since November of last year, I brought on my first creative specialist, which was life-changing, how just hiring that one employee has doubled revenue. But then really trying to focus more on the back end and the admin work. I hired a virtual assistant. And prior to that, I was like, how are people using virtual assistants? I was like, how is this even possible? I still have to go through checking quality, delivering projects. And so I hired on a full-time VA about April this year. And now looking at my life, I don't know what I would do without that VA. And then since then, I've also hired a full-time video editor, which has helped a little bit with the margins in all the video editing work. So right now it's 3 full-time employees. 2 are international. 1 is in the States. And then actually I haven't told you yet, but we're in the process of hiring another CS in the next week, and then hiring a third CS at the end of August. So we'll be like a team of 4 shooters in about a month or so.
Amazing. And how is the like what is the decision making like logic behind bringing on another creative? How are you going about saying, okay, I have enough budget, like this makes sense for my agency right now, that you want to bring on not just one but two more?
Yeah, I think first what it comes down to is your personal life and work life balance. And if you're happy with that, and if you're feeling like you're overworking yourself, I just realized that I'm at a point now where I'm trying to phase myself out of the shooting side and really focus on developing and growing the business. And I'm still like noticing that I'm continually getting too busy in the day to day doing all the shooting, and that's something I don't want to continue doing, even though I am passionate about filming. Um, so I just realized I need a team that could be out in the field, and that was one of my other big obstacles, is really handing off and delegating the shooting side to people that I can trust. That was like a big obstacle I had to overcome, just because I felt like no one could really shoot the way that I was, and the way I was building these relationships with these clients, and the connections that I built. So that was like a huge mindset shift of like, how am I going to have someone else go out to shoots knowing that they're going to represent the Skycam brand the way I would. Um, but after hiring the first guy, what I've realized is he's also now 7 months in and starting to experience a little bit of burnout, where he's, a little bit overworked, and little things like that. I'm realizing, okay, I need to have more team members so that he's not being overworked, and just managing our shoot schedules to more creatives.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that you have to invest in the team and then invest in the team again, right? To create more opportunities, not just for yourself to get your time back, but your team members to get some of their time back and have some resemblance of a life outside of work. Because I know how crazy it can get when myself, I used to be in the field, 8 hours a day, and then still got to jump on the admin side of the business for another 6 to 8 hours, putting in the 16-hour work days. At
Yep.
that point, you're like, something's got to give. Like, no amount of money is going to make this, insanity like something I want to take on for like a longer period of time. So
Yeah. I mean,
totally.
personally, I like live in the insanity. Like, I feel like I kind of thrive in the hectic chaos of business. But what I'm realizing is, when you bring on more team members, not everyone likes to live that way. And so, as much as I'm passionate and motivated for the success of my business, I understand that the others might not be as passionate for Skycam as I am. So trying to figure out how to, provide them with a more fulfilling work life balance has been something that I've been focused on.
For sure. I had to come to terms with that as well, that I'm the founder, I'm the owner of the business. No one's going to care about it or like want to live, breathe, and sleep it as much as myself. So it was an unreasonable expectation I had of my team, which I grew out of, over time. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, even myself now, I want my weekends. I want, even Friday afternoons, I try to block off and take more time for myself, because what's all this wealth and success mean if you can't get some time back for yourself and your
Oh,
family? And
100%. I'm still hoping to see that soon, and see all the hard work pay off eventually, and be able to take some time off. And I feel like I'm inching closer and closer to that. But yeah, it's just it's been a wild ride to like see the last couple of months, like how fast things are growing and adapting. And um yeah, I'm just really excited for the next like second half of the year, and see how it all plays out.
awesome. Well, besides Carter, your CS, and then your two admins, or the two backend operations, video editor, and admin team members, building the team is obviously a huge component. What other things did you have to do to be able to scale up to beyond the 30K a month, to get to 50, to get to 90?
I would probably say the biggest thing has been really hitting social media strategy a little harder. Once I hired Carter in the off season, luckily it was during our slow season. As you know, in real estate, it's about 50% like slower with the shooting side. So I really was able to put all my time into training him and getting him up to speed in the winter months. But once he was ready in like February and March, it was kind of like just something that magically happened where I didn't really put too much work into trying to seek new business. But I think with the reputation I built in the 10 years that I've been doing this, putting a little bit more strategy on the social media side, and also understanding that social media doesn't have to just be a place where you post your portfolio pieces, but really you're trying to showcase who you are as a person, what it's like to work with you guys, that it's fun, that it's a casual, environment, and also giving them a little bit more entertainment. So we've been doing like some more funny stuff. And I think utilizing social media more and just being consistent with posting not only our portfolio pieces, but using it as a way to entertain has just opened up a whole new, realm of business for us. And I think when it came to the springtime, when we had a whole nother calendar available for bookings, I think before, when it was just me, when the calendar was fully booked, people would just go seek, a vendor elsewhere. Whereas when we had a whole new set of calendar available, it was just crazy to see like us both getting double booked consistently. And so it was really just like a magical thing that kind of happened with a little bit of strategy on the social media side.
Awesome. On top of social media, what about systems and processes? How
Mm.
did you like get that in place? Did you have that set up already, like from the last, couple years, or did you have to build that as you brought on the new team members? Because at some point in the beginning, everything lives in our head as like, the solo founders, someone that does every aspect of the business from client services to the shooting and even some of the editing. How did you start unpacking that to your team?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you kind of hit on it where I was so, some of the agency owners that I've met, they've started as business owners and not really as a shooter. So it's been cool to see that side. But for me, I was a photographer, videographer my entire career. And so everything was always in my head and I was always good on the technical side. But I had to realize like everything that I know, I had to start writing down. I had to start putting out into operating procedures to train people, um, and really start documenting my process so that I could teach people what makes us stand out in our market. And I think the other huge thing was definitely the VA. Like, I would never be able to quality check and deliver all the projects that Carter and I are working on had it not been for a VA that I trained up to explain to him what I'm looking for in terms of quality, delivering projects, really being an admin on the back end. That's been massive. And it's so crazy to think of, before I hired him, I had to like ask other people, like, what are you using a VA for? Like, how could I utilize this role in my business? I didn't even like see what could be possible. And I'm at a point now where I'm like, I could not do this without a VA. So I would say the VA, aside from the social media strategy, um, on delivering the projects, and then also having like my process written out into some SOPs has been really helpful.
If you were to give advice to your former self to speed up that process, what would you have done differently?
That is a great question because I do tend to move pretty slowly. There are other agency owners I've met that have scaled their business, bigger than mine in a really short amount of time. And here I am in year 10 and we're still a really small team. So I feel like I
You grew like
probably,
bamboo, though. You grew like bamboo. You were just chilling underneath the soil, and then in the last year, you went 3x.
yeah. Yeah. So honestly, like looking back, I feel like I could have, and maybe it wasn't just the right time, right place for me to seek coaching or to scale my business if I wasn't in a position and had the reputation yet. I think everything happens in the right time for the right reasons. And I feel like, just the way that my life has, or my business has turned out in the last just couple of months based on the way that I took things in the steps that I took them has been awesome. But I would say for most people, like slow and steady wins the race. I think like focusing on the quality of the product that you're putting out first before trying to like scale your business on the back end. and just really making sure you're offering some of the best work in your area. Diving into like what are the best videos you're seeing on social media? How could I start creating better video content? Why are my photos not as good as this person in my area? Really focus on getting your quality to the top notch. And then I think that the new business will just pour in, and then you can start focusing on building your team.
Amazing. When it came to your product, how did you refine it? How did you get it to the quality it is today?
Great question. I mean, I would say based on I would say my quality really started to shift in that after like that 5, 6 year mark into business. I think when you're the shooter for your business, you're able to, like, anytime I'm not shooting, I'm constantly in Facebook groups, on social media. I'm always looking at competitors, my colleagues' work, and really getting analytical with every single shot. If I see something that I online that I love, I really dive into, okay, why is this shot so nice? Is it the time of day? Is it the focal length? Is it the height of the shot? Is it the editing? Video content is the exact same way. Sometimes I'll download videos off socials. I'll put them in my video like Premiere Pro, and I'll really look like freeze frame each shot. And I'm looking at what makes these shots stand out. What is the transition? What is the music? Um, so I think just being overly analytical with what I'm seeing out in other parts of the world compared to just Charlotte, because I don't think you'll find the answers if you look just in your local market, but just like looking around the world and like what are other real estate media agency owners shooting and offering, and what makes their photos stand out, and just trusting your eye, like looking at other content around the world, and if something resonates with you and that strikes you like, wow, this is really good, then just believe in that and really dive deep into like what makes it so good, and then try to replicate that.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the game to be obsessed, right? Like with myself growing up, anything I did, I had like a obsessed personality about it, whether it was like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon or video games or even like getting into, certain clubs and sports. It's just like anything I did, I wanted to be really good at it and studying it like it's an art, it's a sport, it's like something that you should be competitive about is how you get good. Like if you don't have that mentality about wanting to be competitive about said topic, you're never going to be the expert, to be the pro. You need to obsess over it and put in hours and hours, and not just hours, but hundreds and thousands of hours to go from the 70 to the 80 to the 90 to the 100. And even then, I think something you said at the beginning of our convo today, before we even started streaming, was like you're a forever student. Like a lot of people will look at you and they're like, Mario, you've made it. You've done it all. Like you hit the end goal of having a few team members and hitting almost six figures a month now. What is your mindset there around being a student? Like how have you approached the game as a student, and why did you choose to join not just Acre Partner as a mastermind, but other masterminds as well?
Yeah, I love that question because I can't remember if it was through Aerial Canvas, your media agency, or where I found this. I'm pretty sure it was through Colby, if I'm not mistaken. But there was a Japanese philosophy that really resonated with me, and it's that Kaizen philosophy, which also means continuous improvement and just figuring out the small steps to get better every single day. And that was something that really struck me. And I started diving deep into the Kaizen philosophy. What does it mean? And the more I read into it, I was like, this is exactly who I am. And this is what makes me tick. And it's like, there's always something small that you can look into within your business, within yourself, within your personal life that you can get better at every single day. And if you're not doing that, you're staying stagnant and complacent. And I don't think that that's a healthy place to be, because for me, success and the success of Skycam is everything to me. And I will work harder than anyone else out there that to get to where I want to be. And I think that mindset of just being endlessly driven to success and continuous improvement is something that I practice every day, and something that resonated with me. That Kaizen philosophy.
I love that. In addition to Kaizen and hustling, right? You're someone who knows how to grind and you're willing to grind and it doesn't scare you. Let's talk about the other side of the equation, working smart. How have you learned to work smarter in the last year or two as you've started to grow your agency? How have you learned to delegate and automate and also, use strategy and tactics in your business and not just, let me grind at it?
Yeah, honestly, when you bring that up, I feel like I still struggle with that. Learning how to work smarter and not harder has been a big issue of mine, and thinking that, sometimes when I see a task that has to be done, I immediately think, well, let me just go do it myself and knock it out. But it's more about figuring out what you want your vision to be like in the future, and how, if you start learning now how to start writing these things out or delegating these things or teaching other people, that will get you to that point of where you're working smarter and you can focus your time on more higher value tasks. Because what I still, like I said, struggle with now is I still find myself doing some low level tasks and things that I should be delegating. Um, and I think that's why I'm still putting in like 70, 80-hour work weeks, when I feel like I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel if I just continue at the way that I'm going. And most of the things that I've learned have been the hard way. And through being in business for 10 years, is like, I'm just still struggling with delegating those tasks out. So, just
What
to be
advice would you
complete.
give yourself though? Like now, knowing all the things you know now, going through multiple masterminds. I know you coached with Daniel Bertolo and Austin Schneider, like a lot of different masterminds, as well as through Acre. What strategies? Like I feel like you know what you need to do, right? You just need to like shift sometimes the old habits of like, let me just do it myself. And like that's something I struggle with personally, is like, oh, I can get this done in like 2 minutes. If I delegate it, it's going to take 2 hours,
Yep.
but it's my mindset is okay, if if it's something I'm doing more than twice or three times and it's something that is part of the workflow, part of the system, the business I'm trying to create, someone else needs to learn it sooner than later. And if I invest, let's just say, even if I could do it myself and it would take 5 minutes, but it's something that's going to be done 10, 20 times in the next year, it's time to train someone sooner than later on it. And documenting that process, getting someone trained up on it, is ultimately going to be a great use of my time, because for me, I'm very math oriented. So I'm like, okay, my time's worth $200 an hour. If someone else um, takes twice as long as me, even if I'm paying them $20 an hour, I'm still saving $160 an hour, even if they're taking twice as long, right? On the task, they're taking $40 worth of activity when I could do it in half the amount of time and whatever. And so, still, the math makes sense for me. And I'm like, okay, if I'm doing it more than twice and it's something that's repetitive and that needs to be part of the business, part of the workflow, I need to get someone trained up on it or automate that. And that's when I'll take the time whenever I can to build the system, to build the team around automating that. And just budgeting accordingly, right? Like I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this 20 times in the next year, that's going to cost me 4 hours. That's $800. I could easily, if I train someone today, I could get someone to do it. Maybe it'll take 20 hours, but if I pay them $20 an hour at 20 hours, that's still $400 that I'm paying them, that is costing me 800, because I know I can go out there, or actually more, 1600, 8 times 200 is $1600 worth of my time. If I can get that done for 400, that's a good trade, because the simple trade is trade my time for more money by getting my time back so I can actually make those trades, and then trade my money for more time. And so for me, like that's the logic and that's the science and that's the math behind it. what advice would you tell yourself to like get out of your own way?
Yeah, that's the philosophy you've mentioned with trading the time with money. You've mentioned a few times to me, and it's definitely resonated with me. And now every time I'm in my day to day, I'm like, all right, I have to start thinking of that. Do I want to trade my time or figure out how to delegate it? And I would say the biggest difference for me personally, and I think I learned this through Acre, was starting to record your process, specifically all of the at home like desk computer work, on recording it through Loom, and using Loom as a platform to like every single little thing I have to do, whether it's like QCing photos or giving feedback for video editors or modifying an order through Tonimo, like every little thing that I've started to record on Loom, and that has been a game changer because I started noticing myself. Even like little video editing tasks where sometimes we have to do like a Google Earth animation. And so I found myself having to do it once, like again, and I was like, let me just record this and explain how I'm doing this so my video editor can start doing it. And I'm starting to see myself link my Loom recordings to my team now. And that's honestly been one of the biggest differences, is just like not only having stuff written down for like your creatives and stuff, but a lot of screen recordings and how you do things on the back end to so you don't have to keep doing those things.
Yeah, great strategy. Something I struggled with when I'm recording Loom and trainings is I'm a perfectionist and I want to make sure that I get everything in place, and sometimes I get in my own way. Do you just click record, and like what happens if the recording is not perfect? Do you just say, "Hey, let's just run with it"?
Well, I think before I start recording, I like kind of prepare and do a little bit of like, okay, how am I going to record this video? Make sure all my tabs are open and my things are ready to go. And what I do like about Loom is how you can edit the videos a little bit on the platform. So sometimes if I record a video and then I'm like, shoot, I didn't include this part, I'll record it again and then combine the two in Loom, which is awesome. But yeah, I guess just like preparing a little bit before you start recording. And yeah, there's been maybe a handful of times where I start recording and then I'm like, this isn't the way that I want it to look, or I'm taking too long. I might redo it. But I do feel like those taking the time to start recording these videos and make sure that they're solving the problem at hand in a efficient manner, just taking that time to record them right is going to save you a bunch of time in the long run.
Amazing. And how do you stay organized now in your business? There's still, I'm sure, a lot going on. How do you stay on track for like your larger initiatives, and then from the day to day, like the trainings that you've recorded on Loom? How do you organize all of that in one place?
Yeah, I'd say when it comes to like Loom, all of the recordings are categorized into folders based on like specific roles. One thing I started using in my office is like a whiteboard that just, as I'm thinking of things, I'll just jot things down, my vision, tasks I have to do, um, and just utilizing a whiteboard. So I just like the aspect of like wiping something away when you get it done. Same thing
Yeah,
as like writing it down. But I would say definitely the whiteboard, just making sure you're staying organized and things are categorized in folders as you continue to start recording. And um, other than that, like I would definitely say I'm not the most organized person. Like I think it kind of runs in the family. My uncle, I always remember when I was a kid, is just like every little thing with his business and books and clothes just everywhere in his room. And that's something that I remember because I'm kind of that way. But I'm trying to learn like how important organization is, because if you're not organized, then you're just constantly running around with your head cut off. And just something I undervalued until recently. As you continue to build a team, you're like, shoot, I need to be organized or my team members will be unorganized. So,
for sure. What are some of the other tools besides Loom that kind of hold your business together? What do you use for project management and invoicing and booking and calendars? Like, what are like if you had to just list your tech stack, what tech stack does Skycam Digital use?
obviously, Slack has been massive. We made sure that our photo and video editors are in our Slack channel as well. And before that, it was all like over email, which is crazy now thinking about, but Slack is our central location for our entire team to communicate to our editors, to communicate to our team, the VAs, the creative specialists. So Slack's massive. And then also Tonemo has been really incredible in terms of having a booking platform, scheduling system, invoices, all of our pricing and packages. When people call and ask, I'm like, just go to our booking platform. So Tonemo has been really nice to where I feels like I don't even have to look at invoicing. It's just like the VA delivers the project gets paid. I'll check my Stripe account every once in a while, but I would say Tonemo, Slack, Loom. I do have this one desktop app which is really helpful. It's called Shift, and it's like a desktop platform that holds all of your shortcuts to all of your web pages. So like all of my emails are there, my Slack, Dropbox, Facebook, my banking account, like QuickBooks, like everything is all in this shortcut on this left menu pane. And it's really nice not having to continue to open up web pages and relog into all of your accounts or save bookmarks. It's just like a standalone platform that has everything. So I'm in there all day, every day. Um, and Notion has been another cool thing. That's where Notion's like a note taking system that's also free that keeps all of like my operating procedures. It's also a place that we hold all of our retainer program clients. So each client has their own page, like a table that has all their ideas and the timing of the shoots and the content that we're shooting. And that's been really helpful. I think that's it. Or I'm
Yeah,
sure there's more that I'm forgetting, but
Notion's a great tool. I use it for my note taking like app. Essentially, like all my notes stay there now. I used to use like Google Keep and the notes from like the Apple ecosystem, but like Notion just takes it to a whole new level and how you can stay organized and all the different tools. It's kind of like it's like Monday or ClickUp for those who use the tools like that, but like optimized for notes and creating pages, and you can even use it as like a landing page, for
oh yeah.
your clients
And
or
another thing I forgot was another game changer was when you're going from a single shooter business owner and you're trying to start growing your team. What I did was I ported out my personal phone number into OpenPhone as our business line, and not having to tell all my clients that we're getting a new business phone number and to communicate with us through there. I just personally got a new phone number and I ported my old phone number to OpenPhone, and having that number as our business line where our VA, my other CS, and then future CSs can all communicate through that platform. That's been a game changer as well. Just because, especially like the VA, I've been really integrating him with OpenPhone recently, and when clients are asking like an update on their project or they're sending revisions, he's on it and he's being that middleman to communicate to the editors, where in the past we would have to do this long go around of like copying and pasting text messages. So
yeah.
OpenPhone was a game changer, and we just got that at the beginning of this year. So
Awesome. I'm glad you implemented that because that is definitely something that keeps you the bottleneck of the business when all the
mm-hmm.
client communication goes into your phone and it's waiting on you to get it to your team. But when you can have your team actually behind the phone number, right? It's just makes life so much easier because they're seeing what you see and they see it first sometimes and they're able to address it like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude, game changer.
So if you were to reset, like let's just say someone you were in one of those movie scenes where they zapped you back in time, like 5 years from now, like 5 years ago, and you knew everything you know now 5 years ago. What is like the order of operations of how you would have gone about rebuilding what you've created today in a maybe a faster, more streamlined way?
Um, I would say, like I said previously, I think that if I continue to maintain my focus on quality and making sure I give my clients like a 5-star experience, a white glove experience that makes them want to keep ordering from you. As you know, in this space, there's so many people starting real estate media companies, and there's a lot of competition, and pretty much everyone offers photography that the photos are outsourced, and everybody has that offering. Um, but you have to continue to, if it were me 5 years ago, I would continue to ask myself, what is an element in my business that's going to make me stand out from my competition, and just continuing to perfect the craft of the quality and making sure you're offering the best stuff in your area. I think one of the things that's been nice about Skycam is I got to a point where we were doing some business in luxury, some in like just like the cheaper style homes. And I realized like I need to price my services so that it's kind of catered more towards the luxury market. And what that's done is it's increased our average order value tremendously, but it also provides like clients with this mental thing of like, oh, okay, I'm paying a premium price, I should be getting a premium product. And I think with all of the time that I've put into perfecting the quality and then increasing our prices, what we've done is we've focused our niche in the luxury real estate space. And so now we're shooting some of the craziest houses in Charlotte. Pricing isn't as crazy as out in California, but when you're talking, we've shot on average like 10 to $15 million homes pretty regularly, has been crazy. Like now I feel confident knowing that agents know who Skycam is in this area, and if they have a big listing coming up, they know who to call because we have kind of focused ourselves in that luxury space. So that's what I would tell myself 5 years ago, is just constantly trying to be the best in your area. Um, and I feel like the business kind of comes in on its own, and just making sure that, and like I was saying, other competitors are going to be offering pretty much the same things you offer, but we've even went a step further, like in our video game. And like I mentioned, the property videographer course is like trying to figure out what makes world-class property videos, what makes them world-class, and how can we bring that style into Charlotte. And that's the other nice thing about Charlotte, I would say, is it is a still very young up and coming market. That's another thing that I am super grateful about, is starting a business in an area where we're not dealing with heavy saturation and competition. But we're in a really cool place where the real estate market is really picking up, and starting the business when I did has just been incredible to see where we're at now. But yeah, I would say if I'm talking to myself 5 years ago, definitely just focusing on being the best in your area, looking outward for and analyzing products and services that your competitors are offering, and just making sure those moments that you're on shoots with clients, you have to communicate with them and get to know them on a personal level to make them feel like you're their partner, and offering them an experience that they understand you're going to go the extra mile. You're going to put yourselves in their shoes and do whatever it takes to get them to sell that property. And I think that the agents really do see that, and that's what's at least got us repeat business and some forever clients, is just they understand that we're committed to our product just as much as they are.
Amazing. When it comes to like the best opportunity that you've stumbled across in the last couple years, how has that opportunity like come into light, and how has it like bear more fruit? Like how have you treated that opportunity in a way where you were able to yield outsized returns?
Two things come to mind, and they do kind of relate to social media, but I would say one of our biggest clients, she is one of the biggest players in Charlotte to date. She does some of the highest volume, and we probably see her once a week. But um, really making sure that she was at the top priority when it came to my services and what I was offering her. And she honestly kind of, we started working with her about 8 years ago, and she constantly was asking us to start offering like more things. Like we used to just take twilight photos, and then she was like, let's do a whole twilight teaser where you're doing drone photo and video in a twilight session. that's another thing I do want to mention to some young bucks is I would definitely start offering more going all out on the Twilight side, because agents like having additional pieces of content. And and our client Liza, she just made us realize like we need to offer a package that's like focused on just doing the luxury, or the Twilight teasers and the Twilight sessions. But um, what I was getting at is taking good care of the clients that do the most volume in your area. Make sure that they understand that you're going the extra mile for them. Um, because what we've seen is her Instagram has really started to blow up over the last year or two. And she's always tagging us in her content and all of her posts. And we've done some collab posts as well. And the amount of business that's been coming in just from agents seeing her work on her page and seeing who's shooting it, that's been a game changer. And then the other thing I would mention is we became partners with the Charlotte Luxury Home magazine. So what Charlotte Luxury Home was missing on their social media was they didn't have video content at all as of last year. And we shot one of their conferences last year, and I got to know the owner. And I asked him, "Let me sit down with you. I have some ideas I want to run by you." So we did a somewhat of a trade-off where we provide them all of the listing content that we're already shooting in the luxury space for their page. In exchange, they're giving us ad space in their magazine, and also people are seeing us do a bunch of collab posts, and they continue to shout us out for the video content on their page. They have like 26,000 followers. So just becoming a partner with the luxury home magazine in our area was a game changer as well.
I love it. I love it. It sounds like those are two massive momentum plays where you were able to reach one to many from really taking care and expanding upon that said relationship. So great to hear. Love to see you putting into the partnership mastery is what I like to call it into play. What about like fuck ups or oh shit moments? Like what's like the worst thing that's happened to your business in the last year or two?
Great question. I feel shitty like even saying this because I can't really, I find it struggle like to think of these things like because I think I care so much about making sure that we have the reputation and the image to our clients and to in our area that we don't mess up often. So it's a hard question to answer. It's to think of some fuck ups that
Maybe
we've
maybe
had.
not with clients, but like, with your business, like what would you have done differently if you had only known sooner, maybe a year or two ago that cost you a lot more than just a couple $100, but like was a big like, oh, if we had done this 6 months earlier, we probably could be this far ahead or this far along. Maybe some missed
Um,
opportunities.
I think really the best answer I could say to that is just the amount of time that I've wasted on tasks that I could have delegated out. So I guess when it comes to the trade off that we had mentioned previously, I think maybe it wasn't visibly financial, but like the amount of time that I've spent on tasks that I probably should have delegated out years ago is something that maybe I wish I had back to spend more time with my family or my wife. But yeah, I think the time trade off that I've wasted on so many things that I probably could have delegated.
Absolutely. That's something that I can relate to because even now, like I feel like I've solved that problem many times over, but like as a CEO or as a founder, there's always like a new project, a new frontier. Like this podcast I do alongside with Learn Videography, which is another podcast I recently invested in. It's a whole new team, a whole new workflow, a whole new system, and just getting the system, the team, the training, the incentives, everything in place. And I wish I could have done it even sooner. But like it's something that I like yourself. You probably want to figure out a little bit for yourself first before just like hiring someone to delegate to. That way you feel a little bit more confident when you integrate them into your team. So I can
Yeah, and
definitely
also
relate.
when we talk about that previous question you asked me was when I think about my mistakes is probably would have been better to join Acre sooner, because the way that you've built out the categories and how in certain areas to grow your business, which is like build your team or scale your systems or, things like that. Um, as a business owner, like you mentioned, when you're starting on this new adventure, there's so many different things that you could be focusing on. And sometimes you get paralysis analysis. And that happens to me a lot, where everything is just in your head. Nothing's like really written down. You're not organized. There's just constantly little things left and right that you're thinking of, but you might not be um, fulfilling because you're just thinking of too many things. But I do appreciate the way Acre has that Monday board with what's it called? The success board,
Yeah, yeah, Partner Success Hub.
partner success hub. Yeah. Yeah, I just love that. And it's color coded and it tells you here are the 5 things you should focus on your business. And let me just look at that one thing and really focus on that. And for me, over the past couple months, it's just been build your team, build your team. Cause obviously I'm still out shooting and I need to figure out how to step away from that. So even in our last chat, it was all about building my team. And that's why I think in the next 2 months, I'm trying to bring on 2 people at once, which is a scary feat. And I wanted to chat with you more about that too, is like if I'm even doing that right, or whether I should spread them out and take more
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah, I would say like when it comes to adding team members now, just really look at the timeline when it comes to the seasonality that we anticipate come November, December, January. It's just like, okay, if you were to find a hire in the next 2 weeks, by the time you make them an offer, it's already going to be August, maybe even mid August that they accept. You have another month, month and a half to train them up to some level of, you know, competency that they can go off and shoot at least some standard listings on their own. And then by the time you finish training them, it's already the end of September. And then you really have October before November hits. So if that can kind of give you clarity, like the question is, what amount of commitment do you want to give towards them during the slowest time of the years, where if you want to retain them going into the new year, you want to make sure that they get at least a certain allocation of hours and budgeted revenue. So, they feel like you're invested in them and it's not like, oh, good luck. It's December. I don't have any work, and then they're off like trying to get a job at the Amazon warehouse or DoorDash or wherever they might find work. And so that's something to be mindful of. I think where you're at, you the desire to hire 2 people, it makes sense if you were to get them fully trained by March, and then next year, right, March, April, and the months after, those busy months, you have them fully committed to helping you get your time back. But when it comes to currently, one is looking at the budget, right? Right now, 90K a month, amazing. It's enough to feed maybe even 5, 6, 7 team members. But come November, December, if you're anticipating maybe 30 or 40,000, if the market pulls back, or it's a little bit more slow of the winter months, do you have enough revenue to support your editor, your VA, Carter, your creative specialist, as well as these 2 VAs, in addition to yourself,
mm,
right? So we just got to look at the math. If you're like, hey, no matter what, I need to make 10K, and then you look at the math, okay, you got 30K coming in, 4K is maybe going to Carter, another 4K is going to your VAs, maybe another 3K is going to admin and overhead and insurance and whatever. Okay, you realistically only have 6K left to divvy up. Is that enough to bring on 2 creatives? Probably not, unless you're willing and wanting to spend your war chest, like your savings, your company capital, on like, hey, I'm down to get them early. I'm down to make a sacrifice and maybe not even pay myself as much, or I don't need to get paid because I made so much in the last couple months that my bank's sitting nice that I'm just going to tap into that fund, and whatever money is coming in, it's going to cover them. And that that's going to put us in a position where come March, January, or come March of next year, we're hitting the ground running because our team's already well integrated into our company. The second
Exactly.
thing that you could do is bring them on, maybe start looking at the hire in November, finalizing them in December, making an offer in January, and then training in February and early March, and then having them hit the ground running mid March. So that's like, I would maybe cascade your hires for that, because right now, if you look at the timeline on the training and the offer, you're really going to, like, unless they're coming in already super, dialed, which one, they're going to be more expensive. Um, you really only have end of September, October to even make a return on them. So that's why maybe one word of advice of like maybe not hiring two right now, because it might be you might be hiring from a sense of like, oh, I'm burnt out right now. But in reality, like no matter what you do, if you hire two or one, you're not actually solving the problem with hiring two. You're solving the problem with hiring one, and then hopefully the timeline makes sense for the second one. Like,
Yeah, I think when it comes to the long term play and thinking about as we roll out four creatives, or if I step back a little bit, rolling out three creatives at the beginning of next year. Um, obviously, like you said, I am burnt out and I am looking for an immediate fix. However, the slow months in Charlotte really are only 3 months: December, January, February, and then it picks right back up. Um, so I'm leaning towards, because one guy has a good bit of experience. He shot real estate. He is a freelance videographer. He's only looking for part-time work, so that might be a great hire.
there
And
you
then
go.
the other full-time guy, he's got very little video experience, but a great personality. So we're going to need to uh, kind of train him much more. But I think he might need a little bit more time training. And so even if we start in the summer when it is busy, by the time spring comes around, he's going to be able to shoot luxury homes. And that's the
Yeah.
goal. Is there was a story that you told me where you hired a creative that had never picked up a camera before, and he's now grown to be one of the best creative specialists in the company. And stories like that made me realize, let me just find people that are just good people, good personalities. He was outgoing. He shouted us on a shoot or two, and before we even got there, he was out of the car. He was introducing himself to the client. Those little things like that make me realize, okay, this kid's got what it takes on the customer service side. And he's coming from like an engineering background, so I know he's got attention to detail. Let me put some of my investment into him, because I think he can end up being a great team member.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I
yeah,
love that you're thinking like more long term, and that's great. It sounds like with this guy and the part time hire, that might be a good fit. Just know that also mentally allocate and budget November, December, January. Okay, I'm prepared to not take too much because I already got enough from the busy season. I already reaped what I needed to, or I was able to sow my crops or something. Like you were able to get what you needed from
yeah. I mean, definitely being smart and saving enough for those slow months. And even say we don't have as much on the listing side, there's definitely other things we can do as we're rolling out this retainer program. We can contact builders, and agents are going to be looking for branding content just as much as we're looking for business during those slow months as well. So it's just like switching around your strategy a little bit in those months. If we have the team, let me go out and look for new business, whether it be new construction or just branding content. And I do have visions down the road of branching out and doing a little bit more outside of real estate media, because as
yeah.
a media production company,
I
having
think
that
that's a great
background.
I think that's a great note to end on. What is the vision for Skycam and for yourself as an agency owner, Mario? Like, where do you see things going, and how do you see business evolving in the next couple of years for yourself?
Um, that's the one thing. What's really nice is I had lunch with a homeowner that was selling their waterfront property for like $8 million, and he was a great wise old man. And I sat down, decided to eat lunch with him, and he was like, do you have a 10-year plan? Is it written down? And I was like, no, I don't have it written down. He was like, when you go home tonight, you write that vision down. And that's something I still think about, is like, what do I want this to look like in the future? And I think I want to continue to move things in a slow pace, but find the right people that are committed to the long-term vision of Skycam. Continuing to be a force as the best quality real estate media company in the area. Hopefully maybe get some office space and really have some space that we can do some more branding content with agents. That'd be really cool to start building that culture and have like a space for the team. And and then as that continues to grow, maybe in like 5 or so years, really start branching out our production company into offering in different industries. Um, I went to school for video production, so even though I landed in the real estate space, I still have a passion, and I know videographers as well have a passion for creating content that isn't just houses. And so being able to fulfill the team and creating some cooler content outside of real estate would be a lot of fun. So
I love that for you. Well, thank you so much, Mario, for joining the Partners Podcast. Awesome to hear about your journey. One last thing to leave the listeners with: if you could give one piece of advice to the world, what would that be? Like, what is something that you learned along the way that you feel like everyone should know?
I would say never settle, never be complacent, just always looking for ways to get better as a person in your personal life or your work life. Check out that Kaizen philosophy, see how it resonates with you. And another another book that I'll also second that Cam Vankerhove recently talked about was the Traction book. I recently purchased that. That's been a game changer, just opening it up and being like, wow, everything in this book is like what I've been looking for. So just reading, constantly getting better, learning learning more about the ins and outs of business and how to run a business. Those have been game changers for me, and I think will take me places in the future.
Love that. For those who want to follow Mario's journey with Skycam Digital, check out Skycam Digital, right? On Instagram. Where else
Yeah.
can people find you?
Skycamdigital.com, Skycam Digital on Instagram, Facebook. You'll be able to find us pretty easily. We make sure we're constantly on socials, so happy to connect and share any advice or insight with any of you guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Mario. Have a good one.
Thanks, Brandon.